It was just a thought.
Okay, don't think it. Do what you want. I'm not telling you what you can and can't do, but just know how it makes me feel, and just know that might be around less. It might not want to be around this new family.
2 years before we get our own place. This is really crazy. I feel like I'm a kid.
I like that Shawn said that he wants to wait and see about our open relationship, because now that I'm here in America, I think that should be over.
I don't want it to be that restricted. This is why initially I never wanted rules.
So what you're asking for is for permission?
I think so.
It is hilarious to me that these people are willingly walking into these situations and being surprised, like life is happening to them. Like, why is the most jealous person ever walking into a throuple? And why is a hobo schmexual who lives with his mom and wants to depend on her forever, like, why is that man willingly bringing someone from another country and then being shocked that they have all this pressure on their shoulders? And this is just to name a few. There's so much BS in this season, so much drama. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We are here to discuss the latest episode of 90 Day Fiancé, the OG. In this recap, I'm going to cover all of the couples just because I feel like they all have a little something this episode. If you're not interested in all of them and you just want to get to certain couples, I am going to add the timestamps in the description. But yeah, let's jump straight into it. Of course, before we do, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You guys, please double check that you're subscribed, even if this video came up in your algorithm, because I'm finding that I'm losing people. I have had a few people tell me that they thought that I was on hiatus because they didn't see my videos, and it's because they accidentally unsubscribed, or it could be a number of things, but just make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you are alerted when I post videos. If you can, please like or comment, because the algorithm is upset. It's not sending my videos to a lot of people because I took that 2-week break. So if you can, if you have a little extra time, make sure to like and comment. But yeah, let's jump into the video. Let's jump straight into Mark&Mina, because we pick up right where we left off with Jordan walking off, upset that Mina told her, "You can't come to my wedding." And like, I know that editing plays a part. I know that there always has to be like a villain in the story, and Jordan happens to be that, which is awful because she's his daughter. But there are certain things that are not edits. These are things that are coming out of people's mouths. Jordan goes to Mark like she's gonna give her father a talking to. She's like, "You, let's go talk. Come on, let's go." I can't imagine talking to any of my parents like that. And Mark, like a puppy, is like, "Oh, okay, who should I leave Maria with?" And she's like, "Well, let her mother watch her." This old ass girl is so threatened by this 2-year-old. Y'all that were naysaying in the previous videos, can't you see how jealous she is? It was just so rude. Her boyfriend stayed with Maria because Mina is crying on the other side of the beach. So this big old brat doesn't tell Mark the full story. Of course, she just leads with, "I was disinvited from your wedding." I really dislike the way that she's talking to him. I hate the way that Mark is pleading to her like she's his wife, like he really needs to impress her. And like, of course, you want your kids to be happy with you, but like, where's the line? Like, you need to assert some dominance. It's very obvious to me that Jordan has gotten used to walking all over her father, and he has let it. The only thing that I agree with Jordan in this entire talking to that she's giving her father is that he shouldn't be spilling the tea in between parties. And I said that. Mark is messy. If you're gonna be a safe space for either of them, you can't share what they tell you. It is a kind of betrayal. And like, he's made this mess and now he's like, "You guys figure it out." But it's like, no, you need to facilitate. But me agreeing with Jordan is short-lived because I just feel like she is overstepping. She's like, Mina's showing so many red flags. You shouldn't marry her. And Mark is like, "What do you want me to do at this point? We're together. We have a kid. I'm feeling judged. I don't really like this." But also, like, you don't get to decide who your father dates, who your father marries. If your dad was going to get back with your mom, he would have done it by now. Like, obviously, Mark has a type and it is no longer your mother. You are 27. You're leading your own life. Girl, the only thing that I feel like is valid for Jordan to fight on with her dad is him not being a sucky dad to her just because he has new people in the family. But as for her trying to have a say in who he's with and how he handles things, I don't think that's her place. Jordan is going off being like, this is not ideal to me. Like, you being with a foreigner and you having a kid, and this is already a problem, so I would really appreciate if you don't have more kids. It's like, who the F are you? And for her to be like, I'm not telling you what to do, but if you do what I don't want you to do, expect me to be around less. That is such a manipulative move. Like, this is literally a tantrum, And to continue the tantrum, she's like, you know what? I'm going to cut the day trip short. Mark is yelling after her. She's going to her boyfriend and she's like, can he shut up? Can you just imagine talking about your dad like that and on camera? So you already can imagine how she talks to him, about him. So it's just crazy to me that Mark isn't like catching these things and being like, I need to put my foot down. But instead, he grabs Mina, he grabs Maria, and he's just like, you guys need to figure this out. And I'm noticing a trend with Mark. When he was rushing Mina in to get ready, like, I don't want to be late for Jordan. You don't want to be late? Then why didn't you prepare Maria's food? Why didn't you prepare Maria's bag? Of course Mina's going to be late if she has to worry about her child and herself because you're just seated there doing nothing like a log. So him initiating this drama, brewing this tension between his daughter and his future wife, and then being like, you guys need to figure it out, tells me that Mark is useless. Like, literally all that he seems to offer is his wallet. He offers nothing. He clearly doesn't offer emotional support. He doesn't offer physical support. He's literally useless. But anyway, when Mark goes to Mina, he starts asking her, like, why she said what she said to Jordan, like, what happened. And I just don't think that that's the move. I think that you need to tend to your fiance's wounds. She is crying. She looks disheveled. And I know that a lot of you have mixed feelings about Mina. And, like, yeah, I think that she comes off really strong. But I think she comes off strong because it's a defense mechanism. And, like, she has nobody here. And the people that she's supposed to have as her family are showing her that she is unwanted and that she is an issue. And Mark, who is supposed to be her go-to guy, he's not being loyal. He's not defending her. So she feels alone. And the added layer that Mark mentions in the POV, but he doesn't tell her, he mentions that she also has a lot on the brain with her son Clayton not being able to be here. So there's a lot. She feels unwanted. I too would be ready to fight somebody on the beach. Is it wrong that it's his daughter? Yes. But, like, there's a lot happening. And I also was upset at Mark being like, if she doesn't get this together with my daughter, if my girls don't agree, I won't be able to marry her. And I'm just like, Mark, I need you to know one thing. Your daughter has already sabotaged one engagement. If you let her sabotage a second, you will never be happy because you are nothing but a tool. He needs to shape up and fast because Mina, she's right now saying, I'm ready to go to New Hampshire. But next up, she'll be telling you that she's ready to go to Paris. Like, you are playing a dangerous game. Okay, but they get back to the Airbnb. Mina's like, I'm ready to go to New Hampshire. He's like, what about my family? Screw your family right now. Your family is showing signs that they don't want her because you know that Jordan is talking so much crap about her to everybody else. So if I were Mina, I too would not want to step into that space. And Mina makes a great point when she's like barging to the balcony and like crying. She's like, why is it me? Why do I always have to try? And it's true. Like, yes, she should try, but Jordan needs to try too. Everybody needs to work on this. It is insulting, humiliating for Mina to go in playing nice and have this little 20-something girl talk down to her like she's nothing. That's not gonna fly. Everybody needs to be a team player, including Mark. But right now, I feel like he's kind of washing his hands off of the responsibility. So this is not going to go down well until he shapes up. So their segment ends with Mark just being pissy, going to the bathroom like, this is not how it was supposed to go down. Sir, you're not really helping the situation either. So that's that. I'm going to give a quick blurb on Shekinah&Sarper. I really don't like them. You guys know this. I call them the plastics. But as you guys know, Sarper is in America. And, like everybody, I was looking at Shekinah's apartment like, girl, what are you doing? It's mainly an office that she sleeps in. We see her give him a tour and he hates it, but he's trying to be nice about it. Literally, there's no living area. The living area is the bedroom and the bed takes up most of the space. And I know looking at it, you're like, Shekinah, why would you bring someone into this? But to give her some credit, for the last, like 2 years, she was splitting her time between LA and Turkey to be with Sarper. So what I imagine is that she probably downsized in that time, and that's why she's in this smaller place. She just needed a place to hold her equipment and to lay her head the few months out of the year that she's there. And so I think that it was perfect for the time that she was a single girly living on her own. But I think that now that they're going to be in America full time, this isn't going to cut it. She's going to have to find a new place. And I don't know how much she makes with this business, but I imagine that now that she'll be here full time and gets to work full time, she'll be able to afford a bigger place. She does take him to the beach, and Sarper lives out his Baywatch fantasy. They both do. They're wearing red bathing suits. He's running slow-mo. It's a fun moment. But then they get to talking. And he's like, yeah, so I love the beach. Do you think that like while you're working, I'm going to be able to, just come here on my own? And she's like, why not start out with the neighborhood and let's work up to this? Because, I need to trust you. So let me get this straight. Did you bring this man to America to be your prisoner? Because you're already telling him that he's not going to be able to be in the apartment when you're working because of your clientele. He's not going to be able to cook in your house, and now he's restricted in where he can go when you're not around. Like literally, she brought him to America to keep him on a tight leash. That's not going to go down well either. And I just don't know how much of this, like, you got to earn my trusting, I believe. Like, yes, I believe that he's a male slur, and we know that. He proudly reminds us that he slept with over 2,500 women. We know that. But also Shekinah knows that. And like, you agreed to be with this man. You defend him against your family, against the world. Do I feel bad for you? No. So her saying that now she has trust issues, I'm just like, girl, get off my screen. And that's enough on them. The next group that I'm going to just go through quickly is the THROUPLE. The last time we saw them, Ani had revealed that her and Matt were intimate right next to Amani, but Amani didn't get permission from them. So she is butthurt. And so the next day we see them and they're all walking on eggshells around Amani. And it's just so interesting to me that that was what made Amani be like, wow, like being in a throuple is not for the weak. And it's like, I don't know, you guys. They just sound like idiots to me because Amani's like, we have our own couple issues, and being in a throuple, it's just like magnified. Like, no shit, It's just so funny to me because she's talking about it like she's been forced to do a throuple. Like, oh, I just didn't know that it was going to be so hard. And you see them all having breakfast and it is tense. You see Matt like in the back hiding. Ani is like eating, like looking around, and she looks sad. And Amani's like, well, don't look sad. Girl, you don't get to control how someone emotes. If Ani feels sad, she feels sad. But again, this is like us seeing how much of a control freak Amani is. There's a moment that we don't see Amani in the screen anymore. And of course, Ani and Matt are just like melted into each other, looking very much like a couple. But the next time we see the throuple together, they're going on like a picnic. And this picnic is to have the tough conversations, which again, I'm like, why did you guys not have this before you signed up for this? Like, why did it just occur to y'all to create guidelines? But the most important guideline that I want to get to is jealous Amani's, because she's like, I don't want to restrict you guys, and I don't want to, have you guys ask me for permission every time you want to be intimate, but I just want to be told like quickly after. And Matt is like, so you want permission? And she's like, yeah. I honestly do not understand the point of any of it. Her possessive ass wants to dabble in this, maybe because she thinks that it is cool, maybe because she thinks that like, I don't know, they're gonna get more social media cred. I don't know what her motive is, but she is the most jealous, insecure person. This is not gonna work. On top of everything, right, now that they've created the guidelines, she's like, but really, the root of our issues is that Ani is hiding us from her family. So anyway, that's it for them this episode. Let's move on to Alliya&Shawn. So when we see Shawn, he is begrudgingly cleaning up their place. Apparently, Alliya is a clean freak. She's a germaphobe. And so he's like, oh yeah, like, you know, can you believe she doesn't want me to lay in bed with our outside clothes? Okay, Shawn. He does mention that Alliya is a registered nurse in Brazil, and I don't know if we knew that. I thought that the assumption was that she was like a sugar baby. Not that there's a problem with that, but I love that she's a nurse. I love that she already had, you know, things going for her. That's amazing. But anyway, we see Shawn getting ready to go to the airport, and he's pissing me off. The way that he talks about Alliya like it's a persona, sir, she is a whole trans woman. Get with the program already. I don't know if it's the producers that are making him sound so ignorant. It is just so frustrating. But anyway, Alliya arrives. They have this beautiful hug. She's crying. He's like, I didn't bring you flowers, but I brought you your new puppy. She's like, oh my God, I'm in America. Like, this is a dream come true. I get to start over. And, you know, that makes me a little emotional because for a lot of people, America is the land of like, all the possibilities. And I also think that like in starting that life with Shawn, I don't know what it's like behind closed doors, but from the outside looking in, she's starting off in a nice foot. I mean, she's gonna come to a nice house. He's well off. You know, like he has connections. Like they're gonna be in a prime location. It's not like he's taking her to the middle of nowhere. He's taking her to LA. And you could see just like her eyes like wide as they're driving up to the house. Just like, wow, like this looks like a movie. She gets to Shawn's house and I was laughing when she was like, this looks medieval. And it definitely does look like a relic. And inside his house, he definitely has a lot of thingamabobs. Like he just has a lot of knickknacks. Part of it looks like a museum, but it looks really cool and beautiful until we get to like the Jurassic Park wall. That threw me off a little bit. But for the most part, she's like, you know, it's beautiful, but it's a lot to look at. I want to call out though that she didn't want Shawn to get on the bed with his outside clothes, but she willingly threw her nasty ass luggage on the bed. And I'm like, Alliya, that is a crime. Finally, we see these two like in the yard having a nightcap. And Shawn is like, yeah, you know, like, let's get ready for bed. Let's cuddle and see where it goes. Hint, hint. To when he immediately is like, yeah, so I, you know, got tested. And Aliyah's like, great. Like, I want to see that. You're going to show it to me, right? And he's like, yeah. And the reason this is important, and it's important no matter the relationship that you're in, but it's especially important for them because they have been in an open relationship. And if this is new information to you guys, when these two were in Love in Paradise, Shawn said that they were in an open relationship because of the distance. And he made it clear that he had a boyfriend. Someone that he doesn't claim as his boyfriend, but it's his boyfriend who has been in his life for years, and he wasn't gonna throw that person away. It was a conversation that they had where he was like, yeah, this person has been my friend for a long time. I want you to meet them. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable, but they're not going anywhere. He made it seem like he had that because they weren't in an open relationship. But as he's talking in his interview, he's now making it seem like the reason he's in an open relationship is because he never agreed to be with a woman until Alliya became Alliya. So that's obviously going to be an issue. And Alliya asks, like, so do you think that you're still going to be in an open relationship now that I'm here? And he's like, oh, well, you know, let's not talk about that in night one. Which is a clear answer for me. And Alliya catches what he's putting down. And she's upset by that answer. In her interview, she's like, that's not what I expected to hear. Like, I'm already here. That's not what I want. Because also, the open relationship was very much one-sided. Alliya wasn't intimate with anybody. And she tells him again, she's like, I haven't been with anyone since you left. And Shawn is quiet because obviously he cannot say the same. So the last scene that we see with these two is when they're going hiking. And Aliyah's like, so, like, all my people know about you. Does anyone know that I'm here with you? And he says, oh, you know, my mom, some friends, but my kids don't know. And she's like, really? They don't know? Like, is it because you're ashamed of me? And he says no, but I think partly yes. What he says, though, is that he doesn't want, you know, people's opinions, that he's gonna do what he does, and he just wants to introduce Alliya. And I hate when people say things like this because you're not setting up your partner for success. You're only prolonging the inevitable. People are gonna feel how they feel. It doesn't matter if you present her a year in, they're gonna still have those emotions. And he says something that I feel like a lot of people that have been married before aren't sensitive to, and I just don't know if I could be with a divorcee because of this. He's like, like, it's not a big deal. I've already been married. I've already done it. If it wasn't because, we needed to have you here, like, I wouldn't have considered marriage. And you could see that hits Alliya, because Alliya would like him to be excited about their union. She's doing this for love, and she's not necessarily doubting his love, but she's just like, are you doing this because it feels like a job? So you're already seeing the disconnect between these two and how they're approaching their future together. So yeah, that's it on them. Let's move on to Mahdi&Stevi. I'm gonna tell you guys, I really want to like these two, but seeing the way that Stevie was acting around her family pissed me off. And she's only pissing me off more in this episode. But I'll expand on that in a second. When we pick up with these two, Mahdi is traumatized by his first haircut in America, okay? I think that he looks great. It honestly looks like he had a Dominican barber. He's saying that his mustache is gone. I think that they just cleaned it up. I think that he looks great. He does not like it. They go home. Stevie is filling it in with eyeliner. Whatever. They go to a cafe, and this is where Stevie's like, hey, yeah, so I told my dad's girlfriend that thing that you said in night one that really upset me. And he's like, what did I say? So if you guys recall, night one, he has never left his family before to this extent, okay? He is in America. He only has Stevie. He's like, damn, I love this girl, but I've known my family all my life. Am I really not going to be able to see them all of my life? So he's here contemplating, would you be okay if I go back and there's a risk that I can't come back? He's just going through the motions of being an anxious person and coming to terms with you're never going to see your family. He is allowed to be scared his first night so far away from home. Stevie took that shit very personal, and she's already showing me that she is a girly that cannot let shit go. And it is frustrating to watch because it's like, you're afraid of bridges. You have sleep terrors. You have a codependent relationship with your dad. You, out of all people that demand grace, can't give grace to your fiance because he's nervous night one. You're gonna hold that crap over him for the next 30 days? That pissed me off. He was being vulnerable with her. He was having a hard time, and he's allowed to have a hard time. I would say that, give him at least a month to, come to terms with life here. It takes a minute. So when she tells him, yeah, I shared this very vulnerable thing about you, to my father's girlfriend, he's like, why would you do that? You shouldn't have done that. And she's like, well, you shouldn't have told me it. Who is he supposed to talk to? So she's like, I need to know if you're always going to feel this way. And it's like, he just got here, Stevie. He hasn't even been here for a week. I just feel like the lack of grace is frustrating. What, you're the only person that's allowed to be vulnerable here? And then it takes a turn when he says the next thing, which I don't know what his motive was to say it, but it doesn't land in a good way with Stevie. But he says before he got here, as he was thinking about things, he's like, thinking about the worst case scenario. If they happen to break up, if she no longer wants to be with him, what would he do? And he initially was like, I think I'll stay in America. But after being here and realizing that means I'm never gonna see my family, he's like, now, if you decide not to be with me, I'm just going to go back home. Stevie is pissed that was even a thought. She's like, you thought about a possibility of us not being together? Because I never thought that. I think that you can't hold that against him. I think that all of us should be thinking about plan A, plan B, plan C. I just think that it is delusional to not think about all of the options. People are fickle. Love is not the only thing that makes a relationship go forward. Her now holding this against him, I'm like, oh my God. She's like, I never had that thought. The fact that you had that thought and he's like, can I not tell you my thoughts? Like, is this how you're gonna act every time that I tell you anything? Like, I don't think there's anything toxic about considering your options, especially when you are sacrificing so much. And it's upsetting to see Stevie like just like fixate on those things. But I can understand a little bit how this may seem like a red flag, even though I don't think Stevie is viewing it the way that I'm viewing it. She's viewing it as, oh, like, maybe you don't love me as much as I love you because you're thinking about a life that we're not together. And like, I always think of us together. That's what she's thinking about. I'm thinking about the cliche of wanting to be here for a green card. And I think that he's here and he's like, actually, a green card is not all that worth it. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. Mahdi is realizing that he cannot confide in this girl, that she will overreact. She is very sensitive and he can't process with her. She can't be that person. Even though she's like, yeah, I want you to tell me everything. He's like, but no, but you don't actually. And she's like, Mahdi, I want to be clear. It's forever or nothing. And he's like, I love you. I want to be with you. That's not what I meant by saying this. It's just upsetting because she's like, you know, you never told me that you were thinking like that. And I'm like, girl, he just got here. And he's telling her like it was just a thought. And she's like, well, don't think it. Don't think like that. Forever or nothing. She is being far from reasonable. And I think that that is going to get old as well. So that's it for them in this episode. Let's move on to Greg and Joan. My girl Joan is in the trenches. When we see these two, he's showing her around Long Island. She is happy to be out of the house and away from his mother. She's had 2 nights in America and he's like, yeah, you know, I noticed that you didn't want to be intimate with me last night. And she's like, yeah, because I feel like your mother is right behind the door and I just can't be comfortable doing that. And if that's not enough encouragement for him to get his ass out of there, I don't know what is. But they're going on this walk and Joan takes the opportunity to lock in on the important conversations. She's like, so how long do you think we're gonna be at your mother's house? And he's like, oh, you know, a year and a half or 2, you know, just for us to like stack up because, you know, I would hate to pay rent. I would rather put it on a mortgage. You don't have a job and the job market is crap right now and you're turning down good union jobs. You guys are going to be at your mom's house forever. Joan is listening to this and she's like, I thought 6 months max and that's pushing it. 2 years at your mom's house? That's crazy. And I just think that it is bold for this man to think that he's even going to have a relationship in 2 years. Lucille is going to break that up. Not only Lucille, Greg. I feel like Greg, just as an individual, would send me back to Uganda. He lacks ambition. He lacks boundaries. He can't read a room. Joan is really just like, if I would have known that this is his outlook, I would have stayed my ass home. And on top of everything, she's learning that he had debt. And I'm gonna stop Greg right there. When he's like mentioning the debt that he has and then is like, yeah, and you know, and the immigration and the paperwork. Joan didn't ask you to bring her to America under these conditions. The fact that you had debt is not her problem. You weren't financially ready to bring someone to America. She would have waited. But him being like, you know, and flying back to Uganda and this and that. She seems like a very reasonable girl. And if you would have communicated the reasons as to why you can't go as often, she would have understood. But here you are, now in the trenches, and she feels trapped. And to add insult to injury now, he's like, yeah, and you know, for our wedding, we're gonna have to really budget. The man that doesn't know how to budget is talking about budgets, okay? He's like, yeah, you and I can make the food. And you know, Jonah's listening to this, but she's like, I understand that we have to scale back for our wedding, but it is a once-in-a-lifetime situation. She's like, I don't want a crummy dress. I want a nice dress. And he's like, yeah, you know, let's say it's like $500 for a dress. And when I tell you that this man is playing in Joan's face, because he knows that a wedding dress is not that cheap. Because the only maybe saving grace that Joan has is that she's tiny, and so she'll have a lot of options. However, she's short, so she's petite. So no matter what, her wedding dress is going to need alterations Alterations are not cheap. So yeah, I mean, this man has been far from transparent, and you can see the uneasiness in her body language. Like, she is scared. But the next time that we see them, these two are gonna go to dinner to meet two of his friends. And I was just like prepping myself because Greg as an individual pisses me off. So I was like, are his friends gonna be the equivalent level of trash? To my surprise, they were not. They seemed really nice and they did not hold back. Immediately, they're like, so, how's life with Lucille? And they're asking her how long she expects to, stay there. And Joan is like, listen, ideally, I would like 3 months. And they look at him and they're like, so what are you going to do about that? What plans are you making to be out of there in 3 months? And Greg is trying to make jokes like, let me just jump off this boardwalk, because he feels that his friends are applying pressure and ganging up on him. But I don't view it as that. I think that his friends know him very well, and they know that he lacks ambition. They know that he hasn't gotten a job. So it is crazy to see this beautiful woman next to him, and he's not making any moves to keep her here. And they tell him to his face, they're like, you need a job. And this is where Greg makes the excuse of all the money that he has spent traveling back and forth to Uganda. But you're 35. You can't blame this girl for your lack of saving. She sacrificed her good career, her home, her lifestyle to be in the trenches in your mom's house. And you're refusing to get a steady job. And he mentions the bogus idea of him wanting to have a bakery. The reason I call it bogus is because he's not making any moves to make that happen. It is a pipe dream. He's just talking about it. It's in the ether. He's making no moves towards it. Get a job. He's all talk. And so that's why it's so frustrating hearing him be like, well, Joan, I want 4 kids. And where do you want to have them? In your mom's house? How do you want to feed them? Lucille's menu? You don't want to offer anything to the equation? Like, the audacity. And so you can see the friends like looking back and forth to Greg and Joan. And they're just like, if he doesn't get it together, she's gonna leave him. And it doesn't seem like they're bad at it. It's very clear that they know exactly who Greg is. And if they don't believe in the relationship, it's because they're not believing in their friends. And that's it for the recap, you guys. Let me know your thoughts on all of these people. I love when you guys give me your insight and it's different, because we just have different life experiences, and the way that we view people, sometimes you guys can be more understanding than I am and vice versa, and I just love to hear it. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.